Today we're going to read Magic Treehouse Firecracker, Rock Sledding, and Extreme Sports. Contents: Sled Dogs Racing, Sled Dogs, the Itadoric, Extreme Orandogs, the X Games. Why they do it? Doing more research index. Chapter 1: Sled Dog Racing. The first Saturday of March in Anchorage, Alaska, there is always a great day. The Itadoric Trail Sled Dog Race, the most famous sled dog race in the world, begins right in the middle of town. The night before, trucks dumped heavy loads of snow on streets so sled dog teams can make their way out of Anchorage. Early Saturday morning, trailers full of dogs, sleds, and supplies began to roll into town. Soon air filled with the sound of breaking noise across scattering sidewalks. About an hour before the race, Itadoric workers arrived at the starting line. Sled drivers hooked their dogs up to the sled and tried to keep them calm. Flags from every country and state could the racers call home flutter in the breeze. Oh, wow! An announcer yells out the name of the mushers with their team. The starting clock is set and the countdown begins. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and they're off! As the crowd cheer, a team leaves every 2 minutes. The mushers and their dogs are headed to Nome, Alaska, and a town about 1,000 miles from Anchorage. An extreme sport. The Iditarod is a sport of endurance and skill. Like other extreme sports, it pushes people into the limit. The sled dogs and their mushers enter days of hard running. The weather can drop to 50 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. High winds and blizzards often leave the trail covered with snow and make it hard to see. Mushers and their dogs sometimes get frostbite or become too tired to go on. It takes between 9 and 14 days for most teams to finish the race. For the mushers and their dogs, each day must seem like a lifetime. Going to extremes. Extreme sports like the Iditarod are for people who feel good about taking risks. You might ride your bike for an hour, but could you ride it all day for 20 days? As riders in a Tour de France do? You might also enjoy climbing around on big rocks, but how about climbing up a 3,000-foot rock formation using only your hands and feet, like free climbers do? The distance between New York City and Jacksonville, Florida, is almost the same length as the Iditarod. Just imagine leaving New York City and driving a dog sled all the way to Florida. History of extreme sports. There have been extreme sporting events throughout history. Gladiators in Rome fought to the death against each other and against wild animals. Thousands of people watched as athletes in the first Olympics compete in brutal chariot races or extreme wrestling matches. Modern extreme sports started with students in Britain who were members of the Oxford University Dangerous Sport Club. In the late 1970s, some of them decided to bungee jump off a bridge that was 250 feet high. When people bungee jump, they tie especially from long rubber cords to their ankles. Then they dive headfirst off a very high place. The cord yanks them back up before they can hit the ground. The students jump from tall cranes and out of hot air balloons. Also spent some time in jail for jumping from places where it's against the law. In 1965, kids from Mexico, the United States, and Japan got together in Anaheim, California for the first international skateboarding contest. As skateboarders got better over the years, kids started inventing really amazing tricks. One of the first was the Ollie. Alan Gafflan, a skateboarder whose nickname was Ollie, invented the trick in 1978. He was 15. The Ollie, skateboarders pushed their rear foot down from the back of the board. This movement sends the skateboarders up to the air. The board almost looked like it's attached to the feet, but it's not. Around the same time that skateboarders became popular, a man named Charlemagne Papin made the first snowboard so his kids could surf the snow. At first, some ski slopes banned snowboarding. The owner thought it was too dangerous, but in 1998, snowboarding has become an Olympic sport. In the summer of 1995, the sport television network ESPN began a sporting contest called the X Games. It's called the X Games because the old sports are in the extreme. Now there are summer and winter X Games every year. The game includes sports like BMX, biking, skateboarding, motocross, snowboarding, snowmobiling, and skiing. Extreme skills. Bungee jumping doesn't take much skill, but other sports like snowboarding and rock climbing take a lot of practice. Extreme sports are not usually team sports. Some of the athletes have coaches, but many work alone. They practice all the time to build up their skills. It is also true that sled dogs and their mushers in the Iditarod. By the time the race rolls around, they have done more than 2,000 miles of practice racing together. Arthur joins the team. In 2014, a team of extreme athletes from Sweden completed the Adventure Racing World Championship. This endurance contest was very hard. The racers were supposed to run, trek, and kayak 430 miles through the streaming Amazon rainforest of Ecuador. One day, a stray dog came up to the men as they were eating lunch. Somebody threw him a meatball, and he gobbled it up. From then on, the dog stayed with them. The racers named him Arthur. When the men had to kayak in a raging river, they feared Arthur would drown. They had no choice but leaving on the riverbank. Arthur jumped into the river to swim right alongside the boats. Several days later, Arthur and the team crossed the finish line. The team captain adopted him. Now Arthur lives in Sweden. His favorite food there is Swedish meatballs. Arthur probably still loves them. Chapter 2: Sled Dogs. During the Ice Age, there was a land bridge across the cold Bering Sea from Alaska to part of the northern Russia called the Siberia. About 12,000 years ago, people walked over it into Alaska and Canada. Their dogs trotted along with them. About 1/3 of the Alaska and Canada is in the Arctic. Much of the time, snow and ice covered the land. Long ago, there were no roads or cars. Many people counted on the dogs and sleds to move themselves and their belongings around. The dogs that came with them are related to most of the sled dogs today. Among them are Malamutes, Samoyeds, Siberian Huskies, and Canadian and Greenland Inuit dogs called Queming. The Queming almost disappeared, but people are working to keep this breed alive. In the 15,000s and the 18,000s, fur trappers and traders used sled dogs to carry furs and supplies. In the late 18th, the explorers began trying to reach the North and South Poles. Many used sled dogs. They learned mushing skills with native Arctic people. The Gold Rush. At the end of the 19th century, people found gold in Canada and Alaska. This news spread quickly and the rush was on. Thousands of people flooded into Canada and Alaska, hoping to strike it rich in gold fields. Mining camps sprang up and often turned into busy towns. Some of the most famous gold rush towns were Dawson City in Canada and Nome, Fairbanks in Iditarod in Alaska. People needed a way to transport furs, gold, mail, doctors, and many other things all over the country. They used dogs and sleds. Although Siberian Huskies and Canadian Inuit dogs are good sled dogs, Malamutes can handle the heaviest loads. It can pull as much as 1,000 pounds. When the gold rush was over, people kept using dogs and sleds. But as time passed, cars, snowmobiles, and airplanes took over. What is a sled dog like? Sled dogs need a lot of exercise. Because they're happiest running several hours a day, they are not good city dogs. Sled dogs are creatures of the north. They feel best in cold weather. Their bodies are special for surviving in freezing temperatures, as good for protecting from cold wind and glare. Thick hairs covered both the outer and inner ears. Two coats, undercoat shorter and two coat to hold in heat. Outer coats keep snow and ice from building up. Big feet with skin like thick leather covered with warm fur. Bushy tail curls around the dog's nose when they're sleeping in snow. Sleds. The early native and Canadian frosted flat sleds called the toboggans for soft snow. In Inuit, people who lived farther north used a sled with two runners called a Homatic. This works well on ice or hard packed snow. During the gold rush, basket sleds were popular on hard packed trails. They runner high enough to get to shallow snow and place to store supplies. To ride long distances, racing sleds combine toboggans and basket sleds for all kinds of snow. The runners look like skis and there's place for sled bed to store supplies or to scare sick dogs. In the past, sleds were made of wood held together with rawhide. Now sledders were made from light materials like aluminum and plastic. They go lighter and stronger than wooden ones. Not good for chewing either. Mushers. The word mushers comes from French Canadian traders call out the dog's march, which means move. Mushers stand on the back of sled. They hold onto the handlebar and brace their feet in boards attached to the runners. They slow down by stepping onto the mat that drags along with the ground. To stop, they push on the metal brake over their feet. Many mushers come from mushing families. Dallas CV won the Iditarod in 2012, 2014, and 2015. Dallas and his father, Mitch, is also an Iditarod champion. They have raced against each other in the last 11 Iditarod. And in 1973, Dallas' grandfather Dan ran in the very first Iditarod. Sled dogs racing is an official sport of Alaska. These people and the dogs that compete are all athletes. They live and train together. The bond between mushers and their dogs is strong. How else could they get through a race like this known as the last great race on Earth? Dallas TV posted of his sled dogs, Brave and Hero, at the winning 12:15 Iditarod. Reading the signs. Since mushers spend too much time with the dogs, they know them well. One story is of a musher who knew the sleek dog never looked back at him. One day the dog kept turning his head to look by the musher. It was so unusual that the musher stopped the sled. A cliff of 20-foot drop was right ahead. Dogs have ways of showing their feelings. Instead of sitting down, instead of curling up, the dog might be tired. The back or center of the stairhead, another curl their lips back. They are feeling threatened and might fight. Mushers say that their dogs are so close to them that each knows what the other is thinking. Chapter 3. The Iditarod. In 1925, Nome, Alaska was in bad trouble. Some children were coming down with a serious disease called diphtheria. A few had already died. The video of this terrible lung disease could spread quickly. Everyone in town was at risk. They could serum to treat the disease. The train could bring it from Atchra to Natana, the town over 600 miles from Nome. The problem was there wasn't a way to get it to Nome. The only airplane had a frozen engine. In winter, people could only get to Nome by dog sled or an ancient route that would later be used for Prussian Interroad trade slow dog race. Mushers pitched in and organized 20 dogs teams. The plan was to take the serums in relays. Each team would travel 30 to 30 miles where one took over. A snowstorm was raging with high winds and blowing snow. At times the temperature fell to 64 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. Gunnar Kassan and his team ran the last 54 miles of the trip. Gunnar said that some of the snow was so thick he couldn't see past his hands. Balto, the black Siberian Husky, was Gunnar's lead dog. He didn't think that Balto was much a natural leader. He turned out to be a great one. Balto stopped the team just as it was about to plunge into an ice river. He stuck the trail when it was impossible to see. At 54 dangerous miles, Balto led his team into Nome. It took 20 mushers and 150 dogs to get the life-saving serum to Nome, and they did it in just 5.5 days. The Iditarod. In the 1970s, dog sledding was dying out in Alaska. But in 1973, some people had an idea how to keep the sport of mushing alive. They'll hold a sled dog race that go 1,000 miles from Anchorage to Nome. Part of the trail will cover the same route as to bring Sarum to Nome. They named the race Iditarod, an Athabasca disaster place. Let Iditarod take place every March. About 60 to 90 mushers and few Upper Dock 16 sign up. The trails go over mountain ranges, frozen rivers, lakes, flat plains, down the Yukon River, and through deep forest. Over on the range, the dogs run 10 to 12 miles per hour, or they can reach 25 miles per hour for short periods. To include more towns in the middle of Alaska, the race has two different routes. In an even-numbered years, a section of the trail goes farther north, and in an odd-numbered years, part of it dips down to the south. Training. Mushers can use many breeds of dogs for racing. Alaskan Huskies are the #1 choice for extreme mushing. Mushers begin training dogs when they are puppies. At 8 weeks, the puppies start wearing collars. The short time later, they got hooked up to harness and drag light objects around behind them. Commands. Doctor learned these commands. Jack and the sled dog training school. Alright, okay. Hi, get going. D, turn right. Ha, turn left. Easy, slower. Wah, stop. Kissing around, smack, snack. Or whistle. Faster. Getting ready to race. Training goes on all year round. The dogs on the team are usually better between 2 and 8 years old. The musher trains them to work well together. In most races, 12 to 16 dogs, they work in pairs. The front two are the leaders. Mushers can spot good lead dogs when they're puppies. They are eager to lead. They're good at making decisions and staying on the trail. Lead dogs obey commands and control the direction and speed of the team. Swing dogs run behind leaders. They too help turn the team. Next lines are the team dogs. They kept the pace and pulling the sled. Wheel dogs are right in front of the sled. They pull more of the weight, and sometimes sense how wide the turns could be. In the winter, mushers often take practice runs up to 60 miles a day. In the summer, the dogs normally rest because of the heat. Then in the fall, they practice or borrow around pulling cars with wheels on them. Diet. Alaskan Husky and other sled racing dogs usually got about 50 pounds. Most mushers find this a perfect weight for racing. Trainers know that a good diet makes a strong dog. Dog can eat a mixture of kibble, fish, chicken, beef, and vitamins. Mushers often chop out different kinds of raw meat and hot water to make stew for the sled dogs. In the winter, chicken fat is added for extra pulling energy and to help the dogs stay warm. When the sled dogs aren't racing, they use about 1,800 calories a day. That's almost what an adult human needs. But when they're on trail, they can burn up to 10,000 calories each day. Mushers usually stop every hour, 4 to 6 hours to feed the team. Thus, they give the dog tasty snack for every couple of hours. When the sled dogs are racing, they need more than a gallon of water all day run. They get it from the food they eat and drinking warm broth that the mushers give them. Getting ready. Vets notes on each dog. Extra warm jacket. Apps. Snowshoes. Extra set strong cloth booties for each dog. Warm sleeping bag. Notebook for the race. 3-gallon pot of boiling water. Food for dogs and mushers. Along the trail. Although mushers can stop any time to rest their dogs, most of each team must take 3 big breaks. The first one lasted for 24 hours. There are 2 8-hour rest stops as well. Mushers must also sign in at 21 checkpoints on the northern route and 21 to the southern. They pick up food and rest their dogs before racing away. There have been protests that too many dogs have died from exhaustion, sickness, or injuries during Iditarod. Vets are on duty at every checkpoint to examine the dogs. A sick or hurt dog must be left at the checkpoint to be cared for. Incredible Iditarod stories. At 2014, Dallas Seabury broke every Iditarod record by nearly 6 hours. Dallas' total time was 8 days, 13 hours and 4 minutes. In 1985, Susan Butcher, 4-time Israel, went driving her team to a part of trail known as Moose Alley. Moose charged them, killing 2 of her dogs and injuring many others. Susan had to drop out. The most amazing finish was in 1978. Dick Matthew's team beats Rick's Watson by 1 second. The tip of Dick's lead down nose crossed the finish line just barely ahead of Rick's. In 1974, Mary Shears became the first woman to finish the race. Her lead dog was named Cabbage. Mary said that she named him because he was a silly-looking little puppy. Libby Riddles was the first woman to win the Iditarod. In 1985, she and her team fought their way to the horrible storm. The temperature reached 50 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. The Armasters and wait out a storm a checkpoint. Libby took the chance to get ahead. She had to stop every 100 yards to wipe out from her dog's faces. At times it snowed so hard that she couldn't see the trail, but Libby blasted and beat everyone. The history of Alaska lives on the sport of dog smashing. Most Alaskans don't need to compete in extreme races to keep the spirit alive. Many simple enjoy taking a short run with their dog teams or cold winter days. The Widow's Lamb. Many years ago, it was a custom for the light lamb to hang outside inns where mushers stopped to rest. The lamb guided them to one place, a hot meal, and a much-needed sleep. So it could let everyone know when someone was still on the trail. When the musher arrived, the lamb was put out. At 10 a.m. on the Saturday after Iditarod begins, an officer lights a lantern in hands on an arc at the finish line. When the last musher pulls in, the lamp is turned off. Then every team has safely arrived and the race is officially over. Oh, I really wanted to tell you about the extreme endurance, but not now. Bye, see you next time. I've got too tired of reading. Bye.